and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Dawg House Podcast. Today, we will continue our conversation with Josh Hancher from dogstats.com. We'll also go over the Georgia preview on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And also, we will talk about if Georgia's wide receiver room is the best in the SEC. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. That'll really help us out. And we hope you enjoy it. How about our wide receiver room? Potentially we have it as maybe the top SEC wide receiver room, which is rare for Georgia wide receiver room. Got a lot of talent coming back. Got a couple of transfers coming in with Dominique Levitt and Ra Thomas. What's your thoughts on the wide receiver room for Georgia?
It's in good shape. I mean, Dominic Levitt, I believe, if he didn't lead the SEC in yardage last year, he was way up there. Was certainly, I think that he was the number one transfer wide receiver on the board in the entire country. So to get him again with experience, ready to play in the SEC, I think that's great. Ra Thomas, I can't speak to I know too much about him but he's good. Again, brings in SEC experience. And then of course, Brock Bowers is just an all-time freak tight end. And then and don't forget Lad McConkey, who is fifth in the sort of the EPA metrics returning for in the SEC. I've got there. So and putting up numbers in the slot that competing against number one wide receivers on the outside. And then Trey Harris is a guy. This is kind of cool. What I've done in this guide is highlighted the teams they played on last year. So you're looking at Trey Harris, who on his EPA per play average was if he played in the SEC, he'd be number 2. But you do have to take that with a grain of salt because those stats are coming over from Louisiana Tech. So you can see in my list of and you can see where they played last year and stuff. So you can see all these guys. So if you don't recognize them, you can say, oh, that's right, because he played at Memphis last year. So, you got 2 guys that show up on this list, Caden Prixhorn and Trey Harris both make this list, but they're transfers for Ole Miss. They're going to be playing for their first year. So it's all there. You can see down there at the bottom, towards the bottom, Ra Thomas at Missouri and Dominic Levitt at Missouri and Ra Thomas at Mississippi State. Their average, because they didn't get the volume, because this is sorted by total EPA here. So they didn't get quite the volume, but their averages is way high up there. So I expect them to have at least that much volume, if not more. Again, because there's a lot of players that got to eat, as they say. So they may not put up a total number, but I expect there's really, really good efficiency per play averages to hold or even get a little better in this Mike Bobo and Carson Beck offense. So yeah, it's a lot to be excited on the offensive side of the ball, and we haven't talked about the running backs.
Okay. For sure. And then, having 4 of the guys on the list out of Georgia, which is great. So,
yeah, those are, again, I want to reiterate 4 guys that all played in the SEC last year. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that are coming in from power group of 5 schools. So, yeah, just keep that in mind as you look at this stuff, because it's, numbers can confuse you and stuff. But yeah, that's elite quality, if not elite, highly quality wide receiver room behind Brock Bowers. That's just who is elite of elite.
For sure. And that's not even talking about, we got some young guys coming in that were highly recruited too. Got some 4-stars coming in. So you never know, they might.
Oh yeah. And Arian Smith, a healthy Arian Smith.
Right. He's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking of that, we'll touch real quick on the running backs. Who do you have to think? I think it's going to be maybe by committee. What's your thoughts on the Georgia running back room?
I don't know if it's by committee or, I guess it is by definition by committee, but sometimes I guess that's the standard now. Before, committee was always like, well, you didn't have anybody good enough to do it, so you had a third down specialist, but Georgia has a lot of, Kendall Milton certainly is the guy that has the elite speed and size, and you expect him at any moment to put together a Heisman type numbers. But again, like you say, I don't think he's going to be, just because they don't want to run their running backs too much. There's too many guys that can do different things, and it's, and you got to be able to block, you got to be able to pick up blitzes, and whoever. And Dejon Edwards, a guy that I think is just, he was a 4-star, often forgot, with all the guys we've got coming through, but he is really good. He makes this list on the EPA total, and that's with a very limited workload coming out of last year. So, and then you see Kendall Milton's 5th there, 5th or 6th coming in. So yeah. And then you've got the kid Branson Robinson, who again, that guy's a beast. And then I think there's one more I'm not even thinking about. So it's exciting to see that as much as we talk about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and tight ends they've got a stable of really good running backs. Of course, Quinshawn Judkins is right there, who just had a ridiculous year last year, and he's poised to have another good year. And then Jalen Wright and Raheem Sanders for Arkansas are going to be names that you're gonna hear a lot in SEC play.
Yeah, another one's interesting is there's only one Alabama guy on this list, and I haven't really. Did he have a good year last year? I know it was who's the transfer from Georgia Tech? He went in the draft. Who's kind of the main Jermaine Gibbs, I think, or Gibbs.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely had. I think let me look at my thing here, what they're bringing back offensive wise here. Anyway, yeah, I think that you're going to see, if you look at the returning production, that Alabama is one of the lower ranked teams in terms of returning production coming in. So so that tells you right there. It's like, well, that guy made the list, but his total EPA is in the 30s. And if you drag that list down more, if you had a spreadsheet, you'd see there are a lot of players right there. So it's a very top heavy list, again, because those numbers are based on volume a little bit, but he's a guy that had good numbers efficiency wise, just didn't get the volume. So, and I'm not sure if he's going to be their starting running back. I don't know if I have him depth chart wise, but let me see here. Alabama's returning, offensive returning production is 43%, which is in the bottom third of the league. And you can see that. And then let me see what snaps wise they're bringing in. Yeah, they're only returning 166 running back snaps, and Georgia's bringing 294 back. And then of course LSU and Tennessee are bringing over 300, almost 400 for LSU. So yeah, all these numbers are in there. So you kind of have to move around. Some people like doing this, some people don't. But yeah, if you start looking at these numbers, okay, and you have to reference different things, it's like, okay, well, that's why you can see that Alabama is definitely losing a lot offensive, and where they lose it. Not obviously they're not bringing back their quarterback, but you can see that where they're bringing back more snaps in offensive line than they are running back snap and stuff. So yeah, right now he is listed as their, and Raydell Williams, who had 55 snaps last year. So those two guys are the returning guys with that contributed last year. So and looking at that, I've also got the PFF numbers in here. So just you got me going. Let me just finish this out here. Jason McClellan had a 76.9 PFF grade last year, so it's pretty good. So again, if his volume goes up and can continue those numbers, yeah, he could be a guy that could be one of the better running backs in the SEC.
Yeah, really great stuff there. And sounds like it's gonna be a lot of questions in Tuscaloosa. Got new OC Tommy Rees, got a new quarterback coming in, whoever that's going to be, and so we'll see. And
yeah,
then,
one of the things that holistic approach is one of the things I highlighted last year that kind of tipped. It's not, I don't think it's predictive, but TCU returned 11 players last year that had a PFF grade of 70, which is PFF 70 or above is elite Power 5 or Power 5 starting quality. And that was just kind of in the list. There were a bunch of teams that had that, but their subjective measures can be used for something. So you can see that Alabama's only bringing 9 players back with that grade this year. So yeah, they're going to need to have some of these guys step up and play better or contribute. So there's, like you say, a lot of question marks there. Georgia's bringing back, I think, 14 or 15. So players with PFF grades. And I base that on minimum snaps for different, like 100 snaps on defense, 100 O-line snaps, 25 targets as a wide receiver, and 25 carries as a running back, and 50 as a passer. So those are, I filter out some of the guys that may have PFF grades higher, but just didn't have enough snaps. So yeah, that's all in the guide. It's all there. One more little thing you can look at.
Sure. That's great. And then real quick on Georgia, I know they got a very, very favorable schedule. Any potential trap games or any like sneaky trap games maybe for next year?
I saw something on Twitter today that thought that Auburn is one that could be sneaky. I don't want to say trap game, but yeah, that'll be Carson Beck's first SEC road start. After, like you say, a very favorable schedule, we get, I think it's 4 straight games at home. UT Martin, Ball State, and South Carolina and UAB are in there. So But that's what you kind of want, if you're breaking in a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback, is home games against competition that you're better than. But yeah, that Auburn game, and certainly the Tennessee game is earmarked as the game of the year in the SEC East. Thank you for showing that. Yeah, the schedule's right there, and you can kind of see it too. I've included what the DraftKings preseason win total was, so it's just a number you can look at to see what Vegas thinks how good they are. So you can see that the Ole Miss, and we don't play a single team until Ole Miss that has over 7 wins expected. Wow. So yeah, Tennessee and the Ole Miss and Tennessee games there in November are going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, I think Auburn's, we're going to find out a lot about Auburn. Is a tough place to play. We've, the last 2 years or 2 years ago when we were there, and this was when Bennett, this was 2021. So we didn't know what we had. I was worried that the yards are going to be tough to come by. And then I expected that the crowd could impact that game. And we did. We kind of started out pretty slow in the first half, but then we, blew their doors off in the second half. So I think that's a good test, but I don't want to call it a trap game, because I think that Auburn's going to have as many question marks as we do. And that'll be their first big game. And they've got a lot to figure out. They've got a whole new staff, whole new system. The quarterback situation is kind of a mess there. They've got Peyton Thorne coming in from Michigan State, and they've got the kid whose name escapes me at the moment that played last year as a baseball player. So let me pull it up. I can't believe I can't remember this.
Got a lot of stats to remember.
Yeah, Robbie Ashford. Thank you. Okay. And we played Robbie Ashford. We beat him down pretty good last year. But Peyton Thorne, again, you'll see this in the Auburn page we printed up. He played at Michigan State last year. He had 390 snaps, 19 TDs, and a PFF grade of 71. So he played good, but I think some of those stats are built up in a pretty poor offensive or defensive conference in the Big Ten, and some of those, or not, they're good defensively, but they're off. You don't have to score a lot of points to win a game in the Big Ten. So, but yeah, that's a game, and then certainly everyone's excited about the Tennessee Georgia game.
Yep, I think it may be just because I don't know if it would be a look at for that Tennessee game, but I think that Ole Miss game could be really good. I know. I can't think of. I'm having a brain. The Ole Miss coach.
Lane. Oh yeah,
Lane Kiffin blew the doors off.
Yep, that was Kirby's first road SEC game, and exactly. we got whipped.
Actually, that was Hugh Freeze. I apologize, Hugh Freeze, but he's had problems against Ole Miss, and then I think he'll have a great game plan for him coming in. So that could be, to me, maybe a tricky.
Oh, that game's for sure is going to be the highlight of the home schedule for sure. It's like you said, yeah, it's going to be fun. I think everyone's complaining about night games. The SEC slate that day is not great, so it's potentially going to be a 3:30 CBS game. But I still think that something could happen, and I can see that as a night game. Because if CBS passes it up, they definitely would be jumping on that for the night game. Between the hedges, between a potentially undefeated team. Yeah, that'd be exciting. Fun little fact, Kirby has played and not beaten only 2 teams, Ole Miss and Texas. So so he will have beaten everybody he's played in the SEC with a win over Ole Miss that night. And then we get Texas next year on the road. So, avenge that Sugar Bowl loss from a couple of years ago.
Good to know. Any real quick, any dark horses maybe on the returning starters or returning for Georgia next year on offense or defense? Anybody that might stand out maybe to be on the watch for?
I think we've covered. I mean, certainly Michael Williams. He's not a dark horse by any stretch, but I think he's potentially going to be the most exciting player defensively for us. I think as many good edge rushers as we've seen come through Georgia in the last few years, I think he can have a really special year. And then Malachi Starks is just everything he's built up to be and more. So those are the 2 guys that I expect to Kamar, and I think too is we got Malachi Starks playing strong safety over there. You're gonna see possibly Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter have one of those guys could have a big year at the cornerback position and stuff. If we're playing ahead a lot and teams are having to pass the ball on us, I expect those 2 guys could have a really good year playing the corner. And then Tyke Smith, here's a dark horse. Tyke Smith, the veteran guy that came in from West Virginia a few years ago, has been banged up, lost his starting job, didn't get to play 1 year and was playing in reserve role last year. He was on the field at the second half of that TCU game. He has got all the tools. He's an elite player. Had an all Big 12 season before when he left West Virginia. So yeah, let me put Tyke Smith down for my dark horse. And talking about, I don't bet, but I am going to, if I can, put a ticket for Brock Bowers to win the Heisman Trophy. No one has ever won it. At the tight end position, it's super rare for anybody but a quarterback and a running back to even be considered for it. But I really think that it's worth a little gamble if you believe it, because I think if Georgia has this year that everyone thinks they have, between how loaded they are on offense, their schedule, that he could just get one of the, I think he can make it. I really do. SEC is kind of wide open. There's no all world quarterbacks right now, it looks like. So I think he can get a lot of attention and I think he's going to be blocking a little more this year. He's going to be the leader there. That's been up to Darnell Washington the last couple of years, but the big body and the veteran there. But now it's Bowers' turn to be on the field a little more. So that could be something that could factor into his Heisman campaign. So, but I'm a total homer. But don't be surprised if he's not at least mentioned come late October, early November as a Heisman candidate.
Yeah, really. Yeah, definitely. Brock's definitely a problem. He might be another Travis Kelce or George Kittle or mix like that. Yeah, I'm really excited for him. And then I'm also excited for him. He's coming up on media days next week. How much he talks, because Kirby keeps saying if he can get the kid to talk, but he's one of the ones picked on being a speaker at a SEC media day. So that should be interesting.
I saw that today and I missed it. Who are the other two guys that are traveling to Nashville for it? Do you know?
Yeah, it's going to be Van Granger, Cedric Van Granger, SVG.
Yep.
And then I believe it's going to be he's on defense. Kamari Lassiter, I believe, is the third one, which they're all well spoken. So yeah, that'd be really great.
Yeah, so not Tate Ratledge after this week. No.
Exactly. Real quick on those day games, that was crazy that they've had them, or noon games. That's crazy that I saw. I think I saw your post on that. What do you think up with that? I know LSU obviously being Death Valley very attractive, but
I think it's
noon games for as good as Georgia's been.
A lot of people have speculated, and I think it's a little bit of everything. Number one, you are in the East time zone, Eastern Division, so I think by default, teams out west need later starting times. I think Georgia's home schedule, because your best game, your biggest rival is always in Jacksonville and always at 3:30, takes a little bit of a scheduling variance to your disadvantage there, because there's only so many. There's one less game that you get every other year. Georgia has not had a great home schedule from out of conference teams, and the SEC East has been down. All of that factors in. And also I believe that the previous athletic administration let it be known that they weren't crazy about night games, and they did not want a lot of night games. So I think that has always factored into the scheduling. So yeah, I think it stinks as a fan to see the stadium get electric like it was for even the day game at Tennessee, and certainly the Notre Dame home game at night was just electric. Going back to the blackout game against Auburn, I think it's a little bit of a bummer that we don't get a chance for more night games, but I'm afraid it is what it is. I mean, and also Kirby's let it be known that he, for recruiting purposes and everything that he wants to do as a coach and his staff, he prefers, noon and 3:30 games as opposed to night games to interact with the recruits and have coaches get some time at home. So yeah, I think we're a majority of fans certainly want more night games, and it is right there. But it's insane to see that few for LSU. It's just crazy, and you can't tell me that over the time when you've got far and away more night games at Death Valley there, that over that time, I'm guarantee you they've gotten 2 or 3, maybe even more, 4 or 5 wins over the last decade just because of more night games than some of the other teams. But that's my soapbox.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, hey, really appreciate you. And how do we follow you on the socials? I know you're on Twitter and you're on a website. What's the best way?
Yes, it's easy. I am at DawgStats, DAWG Stats, and DawgStats.com. If you go right there, it'll take you to the landing page for the little preview guide. And then right now it's a $2.99 for the SEC. And then once we drop the whole thing, we'll apply that SEC purchase to the whole guide, which will hopefully be out certainly in time for media days, hopefully by the end of the week. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. And
Awesome, really great breakdown.
yeah, please follow. DMs are open. Always willing to take a question. And I am also a fan contributor for dogcentral.com, which is Graham Coffey and Jason Brazel's website there. And I even share some of my data over there. I'll upload some of these spreadsheets for anybody else to take and model or mold or sort however they want. So I like the community that those guys have built over there at dogcentral.com. Yeah, absolutely. So if you really get your hands on the data, join that and then hit me up, and then I can send you some spreadsheets that way.
Yeah, really appreciate you having on. Please look them up at Dog Stats on Twitter, and then the dogstat.com. Really great information. I was really trying to do a deep dive, and I'll probably check this out even more.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me explain it, and yeah, I hope to get some followers. I look forward to maybe coming on mid-season. If we got some numbers we can talk about anytime.
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate it, Josh. And that was another episode on the Dawg House Podcast. Make sure again to like, subscribe, and share. That really helps us out. And we'll see you on the next one. And appreciate it. Hey, Josh, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.